This morning, I, 25F, was helping my boyfriend, 23 male, get ready for work. He asked me to grab his toothbrush and toothpaste out of his toiletry bag. He has one of those electric toothbrushes with a detachable head, and I couldn't find the head. So I opened up another pocket to look for it. I found condoms. A lot of them. He was gifted this toiletry bag for Christmas before he left on a 3-month trip to visit family in Europe. He acted surprised, like he didn't know they were in there and took them out immediately. He acted like he didn't know that pocket existed. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but at some point these condoms were packed in his bag over the past 6 months. We've been together for 2 years. The worst part is they're latex condoms. I'm allergic to latex. We only use non-latex condoms, in addition to my birth control. AIO for feeling suspicious about this? I feel like I'm going crazy. I'll update afterwards. Everyone is so sure he's cheating and I really hope he's not because I don't think I'll be able to handle it if he is. I'm already struggling with my mental health as is. Update 2. I'm in therapy because I have CPTSD. I am a survivor of attempted murder at the hands of my biological father, sexual assault, and abuse. I am in therapy because my diagnosis is something I will have to live with for the remainder of my life, because I have experienced severe trauma, and because I have no intention of letting it ruin my life and relationships with those I love. I'm also not the one turning down sex. I'm the one that's been attempting to initiate. I messaged my therapist because I have a tendency to push people away to protect myself as a result of my history with abuse. My therapist warned me at the start of this current relationship about self-sabotage and reading too much into things. I texted her because I was unsure of whether or not I'm overreacting because sometimes, like any other human, I need advice. I came on here while I was waiting for her to respond. I don't expect people on Reddit to be informed on the details of my life and relationship to be able to have the full picture. Thank you for the diagnosis, assumptions, and empathy. Update 3. I did have a conversation with my boyfriend last night. I was always planning on having an in-depth conversation about what I had found, but there was nothing I could do about it while he was at work. I texted my therapist because I could tell I was starting to spiral, and posted on here while I was waiting for her response. Which I think was a mistake, if I'm being honest. Although the majority of the comments were supportive, it's impossible for y'all to have as full of a picture as my therapist does, and I should have just waited for her to respond to me instead of coming on here. The massive amount of comments was very overwhelming. However, I do think that posting did help me feel more secure in thinking it was suspicious and enabled me to be more assertive when we talked. I appreciate all the comments telling me I was not overreacting. He never said I was, but his nonchalant response certainly made me feel that way. I appreciate the thought-out comments encouraging me to have a conversation with him and giving me genuine advice for it. The second conversation went better. I didn't accuse him of anything. I pretty much just said that finding non-latex condoms in addition to the lack of intimacy I'd been receiving was making me feel confused and upset. I asked him where the condoms came from. His older brother gave them to him while he was in Europe. To prevent confusion, I'm going to use fake names from here on out. My boyfriend is Theo. His oldest brother is Alvin. His other brother is Simon. Yes, like the Chipmunks. I couldn't think of other names for 3 brothers. Sorry. Theo hadn't met his mother's side of the family, including his mother, grandmother, aunt, and older siblings, until his trip. The entire purpose was to get to know his family. He spent half with his aunt, grandma, brothers, and cousin in Spain. The other half of the trip he spent with his mother in the middle of nowhere in Portugal helping her open a kiosk. It was not a sightseeing trip. He didn't get to see any big monuments or go to major cities. I was not able to come because I'm in school and work full-time and it wasn't worth it for me to just come for a week during spring break. I also thought it was important for him to enjoy his one-on-one time with his mom since he was separated from her when he was an infant. His brothers are very different people. Simon seems well adjusted with a long-term girlfriend. He spent a lot of time with Simon and his girlfriend, who was the only one there fluent in English and helped him translate when his Spanish fell short. His oldest brother, the 30-year-old who gave him the condoms, Alvin, has been in and out of prison, and for a majority of his life. I guess Spain has some weird laws around squatting, so whenever he gets out of prison the dude just claims abandoned property and fixes it up to live in because I guess the government would have to provide him housing if they kicked him out. Anyways. While Theo was on the trip, he called and texted me every day. He told me about Alvin obnoxiously catcalling girls when they'd all walk down the street and how Alvin had tried to get both him and Simon to go to an orgy with him despite both of them having girlfriends. Theo was very clear about having a girlfriend. He carries around a picture of me in his wallet, and his aunt said he talked about me a lot while he was there. Despite this, Alvin was very pushy with him about how he should be fucking a bunch of women while he was there and having fun. I remember this from when Theo was there. He found it really annoying. So did Simon. I guess during one of those conversations, Alvin straight up gave Theo a bunch of condoms to use to cheat on me. Theo hid them in his bag. He said he would have left them there, but his aunt cleaned his room regularly and he didn't want the drama of his other family members seeing. Once he got back, he forgot they were in there. He only uses his toiletry bag when he goes to the gym. We went out together with our friends Saturday night after his shift and stopped at the gym on the way downtown so he could shower and freshen up. Otherwise his toothbrush is in our bathroom. He's not living out of a suitcase, he's fully moved in. I do see how some commenters saw the existence of the toiletry bag as a red flag when we lived together, so I wanted to clear that up. I did ask him why he accepted the condoms. He said he had zero intention of using them, and that he accepted them because Alvin wouldn't listen to anything Theo said about me and that he left him alone after that. Theo didn't even say goodbye to him when he left. He tried to spend as little time with Alvin as possible, despite him constantly inviting both Theo and Simon over to his abandoned house. Simon grew up with Alvin but still seemed pretty content about avoiding him when I asked about it while Theo was there. I guess he's just not a good person, so the rest of the family avoids him when possible. So that's it. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me. The condoms came from his older brother. I believe him. He was very straightforward with his answers, and was more concerned with my well-being when he came home and saw how upset I was. He wasn't defensive at all. He listened to me without interrupting. He told me he loves me and that he has zero desire to cheat on me. He also works 2 jobs, shares his location, and usually is at home if he's not at work or the occasional gym visit. He doesn't have the time to see other women, and if he does have spare time, he spends it with me or his friends, who are also my friends. He does have friends separate from our friend group at work, but he invites me to come along when they've gone out or asks me to join them when they play Overwatch after work. I love him, I believe him, and I'm moving past this. That doesn't mean I'll let any additional red flags slide if they pop up, though. As many of you said, I'm still young and have my whole life ahead of me. If things get worse, I know I'll be okay by myself. I love him and I want him in my life, but my happiness doesn't depend on his presence. I have a therapy session tomorrow, and I've had a lot of time to think. In hindsight, I think what made me spiral the most was that if he really did cheat on me, I'd be living with a stranger. I've had so much trust built up towards him, so I view him as this person who would never hurt me intentionally or yell at me or cheat on me. If he was capable of cheating on me, he could be capable of those other things too. That was really scary to think about and made me spiral. The massive amount of comments where everyone was so convinced he was a terrible person and that I'd been fooled also did not help. I felt like I had no idea how he would react towards me if it was true, and I was very, very scared. As soon as he came home, I felt very silly for feeling that way. He's nothing like my ex. He's never given me a reason to be afraid of him. I shouldn't have let comments on the internet freak me out so bad, and I definitely need to take some time away from Reddit. I hope I addressed all the questions/concerns in the comments. Thank you for all your help. Thank you for listening. For the commenters who had questions regarding our sex life and relationship in general, when he first came back from his trip and moved in, things were normal and we both had high sex drives. Things started slowing down pretty drastically over the past couple of months. We've talked about it prior to me finding the condoms. We both acknowledge that it's an issue and that we're at an age where our sexual activity should be at its peak. He says he doesn't know what's wrong. He's embarrassed because he's attracted to me and doesn't understand how he can have a gorgeous girlfriend and lose his sex drive. His words, not mine. He has an appointment next week to get his hormones checked and has been looking into getting a therapist of his own in case the issue is mental and not physical. It's still difficult to not feel insecure when I try initiating and he's not in the mood, but he still makes an effort to show affection in other ways. Our current level of intimacy isn't ideal, but I don't think it's a lost cause as long as we're working towards a solution together. We have date nights every week. I'm very supportive of him spending time with his friends, and he does the same for me. We live together, but no one is clingy or codependent. We do check in with each other to see how we're feeling about the living situation since it is somewhat new and we're still figuring out how to divide and conquer with household tasks. I'm a full-time student. He and I work full-time. He works 2 jobs. We both contribute equally, and do our best to make time for ourselves and each other despite our busy schedules. I have 14 credits this summer and barely exist outside of work and school. Lol. For the commenters who had some things to say about me having a therapist or mental health issues, I try my best to ensure that I am my main support system. I've been in the position before of being someone's emotional punching bag due to their mental illness, and I would never ever put someone I love in that position. I'm in therapy because I have experienced an extreme amount of trauma and don't want my CPTSD to impact my life and relationships in a negative way. I grew up with a mom with severe anxiety, and most likely undiagnosed PTSD, related to the trauma both of us experienced at the hands of my biological father. She doesn't believe in therapy. I had to call 911 several times as a small child because of her panic attacks. I love my mom, and our relationship has come a long way, but the last thing I would want when I have children is for me to be an unstable parental figure. My usage of therapy doesn't warrant me staying single. My therapist has been very encouraging of this relationship since my boyfriend asked me out 2 years ago. I had gotten out of an incredibly abusive and toxic relationship the year prior, and had zero intention of getting into another serious relationship anytime soon. I was thriving and my therapist thought I was ready, but I told my boyfriend that I needed to focus on myself. We took things slow. He was respectful and patient every step of the way until I was ready. He has never raised his voice at me or even cussed at me. He is a very caring partner. I think his love language is based in quality time and acts of service. He's not great with words, but he tries. He can be a bit emotionally distant at times and not know exactly what to say when I'm upset, but that doesn't prevent him from being there and giving me a hug when I need it. We've been going through a rough patch with our intimacy, and when I was off my meds I felt like he, and everyone else in my life, viewed me as a burden despite him telling me he'd be there for me and for me to just ask for whatever I needed. He's told me many times that he's still attracted to me and that it has nothing to do with me, but when I was feeling low I kind of let my past trauma impact how I felt about myself. Being repeatedly sexually assaulted kind of made me feel like my worth is based in my sexuality, so having a boyfriend who isn't all over me anymore made me feel like there was something wrong with me. Like if I'm trying to initiate and am available and the person who loves me doesn't want it, but someone else was willing to violently take it from me when I didn't want it. What does that say about me? I know that's not rational and I've talked a lot about it in therapy, but it is something that I struggle with sometimes. I posted on here during a low time with my depression because I needed to vent and didn't want to burden anyone I knew with my irrational negativity. Depression is weird. Especially after years of therapy. When I'm at my lowest, the intrusive thoughts are overwhelming, but deep down I know they're irrational and that they'll eventually pass, even if it doesn't feel like it on the surface level. I know some of the things I said then were concerning, but I really wasn't in any danger. There's a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life and I know I'm capable of them even if it does feel hopeless sometimes. I know I have people in my life who love me, I just have a hard time reaching out for help when I need it and need to be better at letting people be there for me. My mom raised me to be really self-sufficient and she's also got a lot on her plate with my dad being sick, so I don't want to bother her and make her spiral more than she already is. I've been set back a lot with my education a cause of all the stuff I've been going through, but I know I have a bright future and that I should be proud of myself for making it this far. I am back on medication and I'm increasing the frequency of my therapy appointments from once a month to every other week. I was doing well before I went off my meds, so I'm doing my best to get back on track. Sorry for rambling. I know I don't owe anyone an explanation of my mental health on here, but I know some people were worried. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay, with or without my boyfriend. My mental illness does not prevent me from being a loving and supportive friend and partner. Using therapy doesn't make me a weak person incapable of standing up for myself and making decisions. Final edit, I have a final post on my profile about this topic. I'm taking a break from Reddit now. I'm low-key regretting posting an update at all. I don't know why the opinions of strangers bother me, but it's kind of annoying that so many people didn't read the entire thing and just said I wrote all that to convince myself. I wrote that a full 24 hours after I had my conversation with him and debated posting anything at all because I figured people would be convinced he cheated regardless of anything I had to say. It's detailed because so many people had different things to say about different parts of my original post. I thought if I just posted his brother gave him the condoms, people would say that was a vague answer. Of course it feels like a complex story to someone who never heard about his trip, but the only thing I didn't already know was that his brother had given him condoms. His trip was a shit show. He was on the phone with me every single day telling me about it and fell asleep on the phone with me 99% of the time. He wasn't going out at night. He wasn't partying. Half his trip he spent with his estranged mother and her crazy racist abusive boyfriend who kept accusing him of stealing and saying wild shit about how he couldn't belie. My boyfriend would sleep with a N-er like me. I had to talk him down on the phone to keep him from freaking out and endangering himself because he had no way of getting home if his mom's boyfriend kicked him out. He already got abandoned in a random town in Portugal by them for like a full day and a half at one point. I'm not surprised the condom slipped his mind. If he hadn't maintained constant communication with me while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he hadn't told me about all the other crazy shit his brother pulled while he was there, I'd be more suspicious. If he had gotten defensive at all, I'd be suspicious. He didn't lie to me. He didn't know they were there. The bag has a million pockets and he only really uses one of them. The pocket seemed empty from the outside. He forgot he stashed them there. People seem so sure that I'm this naive, spineless person when I'm not. If you'd read what I said about my mental health, you would know I already have a tendency to be hypervigilant about red flags and be avoidant to protect myself. I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like depending on other people. I mentioned my boyfriend never yelling or cussing because I've quite literally never witnessed him get angry. The most upset I've seen him was when he was trying to defend me while he was in Europe. He's probably the most calm/stoic person I've ever met. I love that about him. I love him. I trust him. Also, his last serious relationship ended with him catching his ex in the act of cheating on him. She had mental health issues and responded to being caught by attempting to kill herself by walking into traffic. I know some internet troll is going to say that's another far-fetched story, but I know it's true. His best friend's mom, who is basically also his mom, pulled me aside when she met me and told me that she was glad he found someone that makes him so happy after everything he went through with her. I don't think he would cheat on me after going through something like that. He's a really good person. He's fully capable of being a support system for me. I just was afraid to let him because I didn't want him to feel like he had to worry about me or take care of me the way he did with her. That's not healthy, though. I'm trying to be better at trusting people when they say that they want to be there for me, and that includes him. We met at school. He sat behind me in class so he couldn't even really see me. When I asked him later what most attracted him to me, he said that I was well-spoken. My appearance was just a bonus. I don't want to sound conceited, but there is rarely a time when I am in public and I am not approached by someone who wants to catcall me, compliment me, or ask me out. I was almost kidnapped twice as a teenager. I hate being approached. I hate being asked out. I turned down every other person that approached me at school trying to hook up or ask me out. But when he did it, he was so nervous and respectful and he felt different somehow, and so I said yes. On our very first date, he took me to an art museum. We went to an amusement park after that. He followed it up with a picnic under the stars where we spoke for at least 5 or 6 hours about our lives and what we wanted in the future. It felt scary at the time because it was the best date I'd ever been on in my life and I didn't think I was ready for anything serious, and he came along and made me feel so comfortable and at ease. We both come from emotionally volatile parents, and are trying to do our best not to become them. We connected right away, but I still wanted to take things slow. It took 6 months before I was ready to make things official. During that time, he made it clear that I was the only one he was interested in. He detailed my car multiple times, brought me flowers, got my cat little holiday-themed bandanas. He bought me vinyls of albums that he noticed I listened to in the car. He did all of this without expecting anything in return, and still does these things to this day. He's trying to learn how to braid so we don't have to get my hair done anymore. When he moved in, he organized my whole closet without me asking because he remembered me complaining about it and wanted to take something off my plate. He saw I've been wanting a Gustav Westman mirror for a while and built me one. With his hands. Took me to Home Depot and let me pick out the color I wanted for it and everything. He treats me like a queen. The only rough patch in our relationship has been over the past couple of months when our intimacy decreased, but I have faith things will get better.